Hello everyone, today we are going to talk about speech development in children, about toddlers' pre-words. A parent's guide. Understanding your toddler's pre-words. As your baby enters their second year of life, their vocalizations change significantly. This is especially noticeable in late talkers, who rely on more than just words to communicate. Even before toddlers start speaking clearly, they use sounds, gestures, and facial expressions to express what they want. Their vocalizations start to have consistent patterns, making them easier for parents to understand. How do toddlers communicate before using words? Vocalizations with meaning. Even without real words, toddlers use repetitive sounds with clear intentions. To get attention, these sounds often come with gestures, pointing, nodding, shaking their head. Intonation becomes more expressive. Parents recognize emotion in their child's voice. Excited ah when reaching for a toy, frustrated when they want something but they can't get it. Questioning ah, raising pitch when asking for something. Why do parents understand these sounds? Babies imitate their rhythms and tone of real speech, even if they don't say full words yet. Parents rely on context. Pointing at a cup means I want water. How can parents support early communication? Acknowledge and expound. If your child says "Baba" while pointing a bottle, respond, "Yes, you want your bottle. Here's your bottle." This teaches them that vocalization leads to real communication. Read with emotion and expression. Use exaggerated tones while reading. The big bear roar. This helps toddlers connect sounds to emotions and meanings. Encourage gestures and signs. Teach simple baby sign language. More, eat, milk, all done. This reduces frustration and builds early language skills. Sing and use rhyming games. Singing and playful repetition help babies learn word patterns faster. Try, if you're happy and you know it, with action. Be a model speaker. Speak clearly and naturally around your child. Avoid baby talk like "wawa" for water. Use the real words instead. Before real words, toddlers use sounds, gestures, and intonation to communicate. Parents naturally understand these sounds because they mimic real speech patterns. Encouraging vocal play, gestures, and interactive talking helps toddlers transition to real words later and faster. The power of gestures, how we communicate beyond words. Gestures are natural and essential part of human communication. They help us empathize, clarify, and even replace words in many situations. Did you know? Even before children learn to speak, they use gestures to communicate. Pointing, waving, and shaking their heads are all forms of language. Why do we use gestures? To support speech. Gestures make conversation more dynamic. They show confidence and engage the listener visually. For example, I saw a tiny dog while showing a small size with hand. To reduce words, sometimes a gesture can replace a whole sentence. For example, instead of saying, "No, I don't want tea," a simple handshake is enough. To communicate without sound. When words can be heard, train station or a noisy place, gestures help us express full thoughts. For example, holding up two fingers can mean "two tickets, please." To express meaning that words can't capture. Some emotions or reactions are best conveyed with gestures. For example, raising both hands can mean I give up or you win. When speech is impossible, if people can't hear each other through glass, across distance, gestures become a complete language of their own. Gestures in everyday conversations. How do I get to the train station? Pointing in the direction instead of saying going right after that building, you can just show the direction. Do you want more tea? Shaking head instead of saying no, thank you. I saw a tiny dog showing the size fingers. Raising hand is surrender instead of saying okay, I agree. Gestures make conversations clearly and more engaging. They help us communicate when words aren't possible. Even babies use gestures before they can talk. In noisy or distant situations, gestures become a full silent language. How do toddlers use gestures before they can talk? For adults, gestures support speech. We use them to emphasize points or replace words in certain situations. But for toddlers, gestures are their primary way of communicating before they fully develop verbal language. Why are gestures so important for toddlers? Gestures are the first language. Before learning words, babies use gestures to express needs and thoughts. They combine hand movements, facial expressions, and sounds to communicate. They bridge the gap between babbling and talking. Even when toddlers start saying single words, they still rely on gestures to fill in missing vocabulary. For example, a toddler might say milk while pointing to the fridge. Gestures help build verbal language. Research shows that gestures predict future speech development. Children who use more gestures early on tend to learn words faster. They reduce frustration. Before toddlers can say full sentences, gestures help them express needs clearly. For example, a toddler who shakes their head avoids the meltdown of not being understood. Common gestures in early communication. Requesting, reaching out for an object. Showing, holding up a toy to get attention. Pointing, showing what they want or what interests them. Waving, saying hello or goodbye. Head shaking, saying no before learns the word. Hands together, asking for more or help. Fun fact, teaching baby signs, more, eat, sleep, helps toddlers develop verbal skills faster. How can parents encourage gestures? Use gestures yourself. Point, wave, or act things out. Respond to your child's gestures. If they point at a toy, say, oh, you want the teddy bear. Pair gestures with words. Say bye-bye while waving to build language connections. Play gestures games. Try pet a cake or itsy bitsy spider to encourage hands movement. So, gestures are a child's first tool for communication. They help bridge the gap between babbling and words. The more gestures toddlers use, the faster their speech develops. Parents can support language by using and responding to gestures daily. Before toddlers can fully express themselves with words, gestures become their primary tool for communication. Through hand movements, head motions, and facial expressions, they convey needs, emotions, and thoughts in a way that parents naturally understand. For example, common gestures toddlers use. Pointing shows what they want, pointing to a toy or snack. Nodding signals agreement, yes, I want. Head shaking expresses refusal, no, I don't want it. Hands spread wide indicates something is missing. Where did it go? Reaching up asks to be picked up. Waving used for greeting and saying goodbye. Hugging or touching gently expresses affection. I love you, mommy. Fun fact, many of these gestures appear before speech, making them an early step in language development. How do gestures help language development? Gestures fill the gap before words. Before learning to say I want milk, a toddler might point at the fridge or bring their cup. They reinforce words learning. If a child nods while hearing yes, it strengthens their understanding of the word. They express emotions and social skills. Toddlers hug, wave, and even comfort their parents by petting them, showing emotional intelligence. How can parents encourage gestures? Model gestures. Show pointing, nodding, waving while speaking. Acknowledge and expand. When your child gestures, respond with the words. For example, child arms up. Parent, oh, you want me to pick you up? You want me to pick you up? Use baby sign language. Teach simple signs. More, all done, eat, sleep. Play interactive games like high five, peekaboo, encourage hand movement. Gestures are a natural bridge to verbal speech. They help toddlers express needs before mastering words. Encouraging gestures boosts language and social skills. How gestures transition as children develop language? As children grow and develop verbal speech, gestures gradually shift from being a primary means of communication to a supporting role. However, they never disappear completely. Instead, gestures continue to enhance spoken language and help children express themselves more clearly. How gestures change as speech develops? Before words, emphasis, early toddlerhood. Gestures are the main form of communication. Pointing, waving, reaching, nodding, they help toddlers express needs and emotions before they can form full sentences. Early speech stage, from 1 to 3 years old, gestures still play a big role. Even as children begin saying words, they use a mix of speech plus gestures to reinforce meaning. I want that. I am this many years old. Fluent speech, 3 years plus. Gestures become less essential for basic communication, but still help storytelling, empathy, and social interaction. Kids start using expressive hand movements, like shrugging shoulders or using their hands while talking. Certain gestures like thumbs up, clapping, or waving remain part of everyday communication. Why do gestures remain important? They make speech more engaging and expressive. They help with storytelling and explanations. They reinforce social norms and politeness. Waving, shaking hands. Fun fact, even adults use gestures constantly, especially when giving directions, explaining something, or emphasizing a point. Use gestures naturally when speaking. How old are you? While showing fingers. 4 years old, 5 years old. Encouraging storytelling with hand movements. Can you show me how the bird flew? Play games that combine gestures and words. Recognize that gestures help with memory and learning. So, to conclude, gestures start as a primary communication tool before speech develops. As children learn to talk, gestures become a way to support and enhance language. Gestures remain useful to storytelling, social skills, and expression throughout life. For a gesture to become a true communicative sign, it must be consistently linked to a specific meaning. However, this connection doesn't form immediately. Children need time to learn how to use gestures accurately. How do children learn gestures? Early imitation, 6 to 12 months. Babies copy gestures they see from parents but don't always use them correctly. For example, baby might wave bye-bye randomly, not only when somebody is leaving. Experimentation, 12-18 months. Toddlers test out gestures and begin encoding them with the meaning. For example, they start waving only when someone saying goodbye or is leaving. Consistent use, 18 plus months. Gestures become fully intentional and linked to speech. For example, a child nods for yes and shakes their head for no. or in the right situations. Babies often use gestures before mastering the words for the same concepts. This helps boost language development. Why do children sometimes use gestures incorrectly? They are still learning associations. It takes time to link actions with meaning. They enjoy experimenting. Waving or pointing feels fun, even without full understanding. Content helps refine accuracy. Seeing a gesture used correctly in different situations helps reinforce its meaning. For example, a toddler may shake their head for both yes and no before learning to distinguish them correctly. How can parents help? Model gestures with words. Wave while saying bye bye consistently. Gently correct mistakes. If they wave a wrong way, say, oh, we wave when someone leaves. Reinforce meaning with actions. Point at objects while naming them to help link gestures to speech. Be patient. Learning to use gestures accurately is a natural process. Children learn gestures before words, but accuracy takes time. At first, they may use gestures inconsistently, but with practice, they refine their meaning. Parents can help by modeling correct gestures used in real life situations. I hope you enjoy and see you soon.